treasures kept in timeless, timeless treasures. Ahoy me hearties, and welcome once again aboard the timeless treasure in the timeless realm where time has no power. Join me as we adventure to different time zones to learn of different events from which we can extract timeless treasure, jewels of knowledge and gold of understanding. So keep watching if you want to go on an adventure, as we be going on one right now, to a place that's very old, lots of history. The place we're visiting today is located in Wiltshire. It's been around since the first settlers of Britain. Has been the subject of much debate. We'll be looking at some sources what gave an insight into the reason of this monolith's existence, and an historical event that took place there that changed Britain for the rest of its existence. So join me as we go to Stonehenge. Timeless treasure. Let's go to Stonehenge.
Yes, Captain. Hold on tight. The mists of time can be bumpy.
Aye. The mists of time. Hold on now, here we go. Oh, well, that wasn't too bad a trip. You're right there. Thank you, timeless treasure. Right, let's go to Stonehenge to find some timeless treasures that could enrich our lives today. Stonehenge. What is Stonehenge? And what was it used for? For many years people have wondered what it was used for. Some say it was a glorified sundial, others graves, and still others that it was a recent artificial construct. Today we will look at a couple of records to investigate historical viewpoints and understanding from writers from the past. One of the main sources of reference is from the Mythology and Rites of the British Druids by Edward Davies, 1809. This work comprises of references to ancient bardic sources and poems. Other references will be made also from History of the Kings of Britain by Geoffrey of Monmouth from 1138. In Davies' book, The Mythology and Rites of the British Druids, he makes certain observations in reference to the ancient religion of the Druids and the ancient circles that are dotted about Britain. Referencing many old bardic sources, he found that the Druids viewed the sown circles as a type of Noah's Ark, and the gods they worshipped were based upon the Noahic patriarchs Noah and his wife. Time and time again, legends of breaking forth of great waters covering the face of all lands is mentioned, and deluges multiple times. One mention among many is to that of Taliesin in Cadgoddo. Truly, I was in the ship with Dylan, son of the sea, embraced in the centre between the royal knees, when like the rushing of hostile spears, the floods came forth from heaven to the great deep. There are many other ancient bardic poems which tell of a great deluge. They mention a sacred ship which preserved the human and brute species when the lake burst forth, and the oxen of Hu Gadarn drew out the land from the lake, so that the lake would burst forth no more. Hu Gadarn is mentioned as the patriarch Noah, who stopped the flood happening again. The Cymry acknowledged him as their progenitor, and eventually he was made into a god that they worshipped. Many religions practice ancestor worship under different names. In the Druid worship, Noah had the title of Hu the Mighty. Lolegoch, writing in the 14th century the following concerning Hu Gadarn. Hu the Mighty, the Sovereign, the Great Protector, a King, the Giver of wine and renown, the Emperor of the land and the seas, and the life of all that are in the world was he. After the deluge, he held the strong beamed plough, active and excellent. This did our Lord of stimulating genius, that he might show to the proud man and to the humbly wise the art which was approved by the faithful Father, nor is this sentiment false. This describes Noah almost perfectly, even the reference to the giving of wine, which is well recorded in Genesis. Also, the record shows he stopped the flood from happening again by sacrificing animals as a burnt offering that pleased God, giving the rainbow as a promise that he will not flood the earth again. Sadly, the ancient Britons ended up worshipping Noah as a god. Even the oxen of Hu were seen as sacred, perhaps in reference to the sacrifice Noah offered to seal with God the covenant to not flood the world again. The God's covenant mark being the rainbow. There was also reference to the belief that there would be a second judgment of fire, as an eminent bard Casnodin put forth. He whom we know will suddenly prepare the field of judgment. To us he will come and will not keep silence. When God shall reveal his countenance, the house of earth will uplift itself over us. A panic of the noise of legions in the conflict will urge on the flight. Harshly the loud-voiced wind will call. The variegated wave will dash around the shore. The glancing flame will take to itself the vengeance of justice, recruited by the heat of contending fires, ever bursting forth. The stone circles known as Caer City, which were used as temples by the Druids for the rites of Ceridwen, which included the cauldron of Ceridwen, wherein poems are described in reference to the history of a ship, namely the Ark. One reference comes from Talison's poem upon the sons of Clear. The currents of the deep compass it about, and the copious fountain is open from above. Still, there is safety, tranquility and comfortable subsistence within. He also explains that the circle has allusion to the 12 signs of the zodiac. We will have another adventure looking at Bullinger's testimony in the stars to see the astrological signs from a different understanding. Not for divination, but rather prophetic signs in the heavens to be read like a book. Stonehenge itself was also called the Great Cathedral and was erected under the impressions similar to those which animated the ancient Persian, maybe the Tower of Babel. A commonality amongst the other religions is the worship of the luminaries, the sun, the moon and the stars, which could have all originated in Babel, wherein Nimrod. This would have been dispersed across the globe when the people were separated and their languages caused confusion, with the same religion being taken with them as they spread out through the whole earth. According to Davies, heads and horns of cows and other animals were found buried on the spot as evidence the sanguinary rites to the solar superstition were actually practiced. sanguinary meaning the shedding of blood as religious sacrifices. Oxen were revered by the ancient Britons, being called the oxen of Hu, as it was the oxen that held back the lake flood. Once again, this could be in reference to Noah offering the oxen as sacrifice to God, preventing the repetition of the flood. In the other old religions, oxen are also idolised in Egyptology, Hinduism and others. Aside from its religious significance, which I have only touched upon today, it held tremendous political significance, being the modern day parliament. Stonehenge was the centre of one, if not the most defining moments of the existence of the country as it is today, establishing the separation of England and Wales. The treachery of the long knives. According to Geoffrey Monmouth, in the history of the kings of Britain, Vortigern made himself king of Britain in 425 CE in an act of treachery, exalting himself above all the princes of Britain. The Picts did not like this and started to fight against him. He suffered a big loss on the battlefield due to their attacks, and in response he received and employed certain Saxon mercenaries to fight them back, namely Hengist and Horsa. He gave them land and other privileges because they were successful in driving back the Picts. Vortigern attended a banquet at Hengist's house, in which he was drowned in strong drink and slain by the beauty of Hengist's daughter Rowan, and he married her. She was used to deceive him and give them influence over the lands of Britain. This marriage was not looked upon with favour by the British, as the Saxons worshipped Saturn and Jupiter, and the British were Christians. Vortigern hated the Saxons above the people of Britain and gave away much land to the Saxons, ignoring the pleas of the people of Britain, as the Saxons strengthened their position, bringing in many more soldiers and boats. In reaction, the people crowned Vortimer, the son of Vortigern, as the king of Britain, who did drive the Saxons back to Germany. There were many unsuccessful invasion attempts of the Saxons to invade Britain due to Vortimer's ability as king. He won 4 decisive battles against the invading Saxons. The battle beside the river Avon, Aylesford on the seashore, to which the invading Saxons fled to the Isle of Thanet. There he expelled the Saxons from the shores of Britain. After the Saxons' defeat, Rowena, the wife of Vortigern, plotted against Vortimer, who had slain so many invading Saxons. She organised the poisoning of Vortimer by paying Vortimer's own servant to poison him, slaying Vortimer in cold blood. After the murder of Vortimer, Vortigern was again restored to be king of Britain. He invited a small amount of Saxons to come back to Britain, but Hengist and his brother Horsa, taking advantage, sent over many boats and soldiers to the country, namely 300,000 men. The Briton princes were disturbed by this, but the Saxon mercenaries insisted that they did not have any ill will towards the Britons, only to help Vortigern protect from Vortimer. Vortigern didn't actually know that Vortimer was dead, but the Saxons knew that he was. A peace meeting was proposed by Hengist, in which all the nobles and chiefs could meet, organised at Stonehenge on the 4th of May. But this was only a ruse to smite a mighty blow against the British people. At this meeting of peace, no weapons were allowed, and it consisted of 460 barons and consuls. The seating was arranged of Celtic prince and Saxon, and so on. During the festivities and drunkenness, Hengist gave the order, "Nemet or Saxas," or "take your sea axes." The treacherous Saxons pulled out their sea axes out of their sleeves and slew in cold blood, plunging their deceitful blades into the honest bosoms of the princes of Britain at Stonehenge, saving for Vortigern the traitor, whom they took hostage. Maybe this is from where we have the saying that someone has something up their sleeve. Before this meeting, Hengist had explained to his soldiers the plan and told them to show no mercy except to Vortigern. After this cowardly attack, the Saxon animals took London, York, Lincoln and Winchester, wasting the country through which they passed and destroying the people, as wolves do sheep when left by their shepherds. Only one other person escaped the massacre at Stonehenge, called Eadil, the Earl of Gloucester, or as Davies puts forth, was actually Emrys or Ambrosius, who was elevated to the British throne. He buried the nobles who were massacred, erecting a monument in remembrance at Ambresbury, and eventually imprisoned and had Hengist beheaded. But by then the damage was already done, establishing the Saxon domination through cold-blooded murder and deceit. Stonehenge has always been the centre of British history and events that have shaped this country. From the Druids who believed the Henges were a type of ark and who worshipped their gods and goddesses, who by all accounts may have been based upon the ancient patriarch Noah and his wife. The 12 stones representing the symbols of the zodiac, which I will give a clear understanding of in another video. That the constellations are actually more like a storybook explaining the plan of salvation. It eventually became the centre of the destruction of the Celtic rule of Britain by the cold-blooded massacre of the ancient Celtic rulers of Britain through deceit and villainy. Today it must stand as a reminder to always be on your guard, as you don't know from where the sea axe will come. Well, that was quite an adventure going back all that long ago to Stonehenge and finding out some history of this country, what we're being right now. But now, let's head back into the timeless realm, where we shall talk about what we learned, what treasures we extracted from history's lessons. Timeless treasure, let's head back to the timeless zone.
Yes, Captain. Hold on tight.
Aye, the mists of time can be a bit bumpy. Ooh. Aye, ooh. Oh. Oh, we're back. Well, thank you for that timeless treasure. So, let's talk about what we learned today, what treasures we extracted from all those years ago, bit by bit. So what lessons did we learn? What treasures did we obtain today? Well, for one, we can learn not to always listen, believe what we hear, because rumours and something called Chinese whispers can grow into something they were never meant to be. For example, the story that the Druids believed in worshipping someone called Hu. And the cows that pulled the land out of the lake to stop the lake ever from flooding again. Originally, it came from a story of Noah, who offered up the cow as a sacrifice to God who received it as a burnt offering. It pleased him, and he promised he put the rainbow in the sky to promise he'll never flood the earth again. And what happened over time, they ended up making Noah into a god and worshipping him and worshipping the cow. Chinese whispers. Don't listen to rumours. Always do your research. Look into it yourself. Don't just believe it because someone says it to you, or because the majority does it. Research for yourself. Also, we learned a lot from Vortigern. He made himself king above all the princes of Britain, and the people, the Picts in particular, rebelled against him, and he turned to people who eventually betrayed him and deceived him. And he was deceived by his own desire. He made himself leader, and he became deceived by alcohol and a beautiful woman. And because of that, he lost the kingdom, and he lost the kingdom for the Britons as well. So don't be deceived by your own desire. Keep a clear head and walk the narrow way. And last but not least, we always have to be on our guard, because we just don't know what's around the corner. We don't know if someone might have a sea axe up their sleeve. So be on your guard always, because you never know when someone might have a sea axe up their sleeve. So there's a few things we learned today. Be humble, be wise, and be vigilant. Until next time, Captain Timeless and Timeless Treasures.
When time will die, the stones will testify. When time will die, the stones will cry. When time will die, the stones will testify. When time will die, the stones will cry. Every word spoken before them recorded, every deed done before them stored, every word spoken before them recorded, every deed done before them restored. When time will die, the stones will testify. When time will die, the stones will cry. When time will die, the stones will testify. When time will die, the stones will cry. Every covenant made and every action noted, every covenant made and every action noted. Swear by the stones they said, swear by the stones they said, swear by the stones they said, swear by the stones they said. The stone shall speak truth, the stone shall speak truth. When time will die, the stones will testify. When time will die, the stones will cry. When time will die, the stones will testify. When time will die, the stones will cry. When time will die, the stones will testify. When time